Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. My name's Abby.
My name is Tori.
And you're listening to XOXO Godly Girls.
So today we have two very special guests, two of our really good friends that we went to school together, but we didn't really talk in school, didn't know each other. And through the church, through serving, we got to know one another. And honestly, you guys have been a huge impact in our life, and not just seeing you grow spiritually, but you've just educated us on a lot of things, mind, body, spirit, and health. And so today we want to talk about that because it's helped us to grow, and we believe that a lot of our listeners, just things that we don't know, and we don't realize how things kind of go in with one another. But before we get into that, one of my favorite things and the cutest things that you guys have shared is your love story, just how you met. So let's just give everybody a little insight into, like, Jayden and Haley, who are you? How'd you meet?
Wow.
Yeah. A long journey, that's for sure. It started in first grade. Honestly, we were in first grade together, and our sisters were actually friends. They were friends during junior high, and then I remember his sister coming over, and I always had a crush on him. Like, he was my guy. First grade, I was obsessed. And we started dating. He would chase me on the playground. Mm-hmm. And our first date was to go see Karate Kid with... Great movie. Yeah, it was great. He showed up to my doorstep with cowboy boots and a button-up and a cowboy hat. Mm-hmm.
I do not imagine that. That's the last thing I pictured.
Yeah, cowboy.
Yes, and his mom sat right behind us the whole time, and she asked if I wanted some of her candy during the movie. So it was sweet. We dated all throughout high school, and then during college, we kind of went our separate ways for a little bit and found our way back. Thankfully, we're here, married, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's short, very condensed version of our journey together.
Yeah. Lots of ups and downs in those years.
A lot of growth that had to happen.
For sure.
For sure. Like, that's kind of where we got today, is like all the struggles that we went through, like physically, emotionally, spiritually together, helped us get to the point where, like, now we're here sitting with you guys and getting to talk about that. So that's really cool.
Note for the day. Okay, I do have some questions. I didn't write them out, so I've got them on my phone. But in your journey, like, with one another, obviously it's taken a while to get you to here. So let's see. Okay, so we'll start with health. Like, we're talking about mind, body, and spirit, but I want to first talk about, like, health. So physical health and where you guys are at now, because some people listening may or may not know, but Jayden is you both are into holistic health, but in a lot of the things that you post in foods and in all of that. So how has your view of health, we'll talk in that aspect, changed as you have grown together? So obviously that probably wasn't a top priority when you're in the first grade. So where did it kind of shift in your minds where you're like, we need to start taking care of our bodies? And
yeah, well, for me, it kind of did start pretty early. Mm-hmm. I would say more third grade, and that's because of wrestling. And so with wrestling, a lot of the times you have to cut weight in order to make a weight class. And my mom hated cutting weight, or at least what she saw other people do to cut weight, not eating, spitting in a cup, which I did have to do sometimes, but anything that you could do to get to your weight class. And so she didn't want me starving. And so she kind of was the first one that kind of taught me how to eat, I guess, in a way that is healthy and not damaging to your body. So she packed all my lunches, did all that fun stuff. And that was kind of the very beginning of my health journey, was wrestling. Mm-hmm. And obviously at that time, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just, doing what I was supposed to be doing and letting my mama take care of me. But that was kind of the original start of my personal, I guess, health journey.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was hard to maintain once you got into college and you, like, were on your own?
Yeah, so that's, like, where the big stuff happens is college, because you're on your own and you finally get that freedom. And so that's kind of where I would say the downturn of my health kind of took place, was college. Didn't really care what I ate, didn't care what I put in my body, whether that's, drugs, alcohol, food. I lived off chocolate milk for a hot minute.
Literally. gallons of chocolate.
Well, I could daily, hourly.
Our lactose intolerant self could never.
Not him. He loved it.
I did. That was like my go-to. And so college was kind of where I fell off and then had to learn myself how to take care of my body, both, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So
I would say the same. Like, I didn't grow up quite like, I wasn't in sports as much as he was. Like, I did stuff here and there, but in college is whenever we both kind of that was a huge learning curve for both of us on all aspects that we're talking about today. And I wouldn't eat. And so, like, I was way underweight and I was having all of these hormonal problems and all of this stuff. Like, I wouldn't just drink chocolate milk like he would. So I would live literally off of Starbucks cold brew. And, like, that would be my meals for the first half of my day. And then we would eat something, like, so unhealthy for dinner, pizza or whatever it is. Not that that's bad, but, like, every day, it was just really affecting us physically and emotionally. Like, not fueling your body affects every aspect of your life. Seriously, like, you start eating real foods and you start taking care of your body, like, physically, and you're like, wow, I feel so much better. What? Well, it's because you're taking care of the body God gave you. Like, that's important, and he gives us these tools, and we don't always use them. But when you do, you see, like, the gift that they actually are. So,
yeah, you start to flourish once you realize, you know, how to properly fuel yourself and how we were designed. Once you start, like, living in that, the way that you feel compared to what you were doing is drastically different. Energy levels,
mental clarity.
Mental clarity, literally everything. So.
What was the biggest thing that, like, helped you guys turn back to a healthier lifestyle and living? So, like, did you guys depend on each other? Online?
I would say our unhealthy phase was college all the way until 2021. So we went into college 2019. So it was like a couple years where we were partying, drinking, doing things that we shouldn't be doing, not taking care of our bodies in a physical sense whatsoever. And then after COVID, everything kind of started calming down, and that's when we broke up and we got back together, and we're like, okay, we kind of need to start, like, changing some things. And so we were living in his parents' loft above their garage. And so we had a little kitchenette area. And so we were like, okay, now we can go get groceries and really kind of own this part. And so that's when it kind of shifted, but I would say like 2021, 2022.
Yeah, I think there comes a point, like, where enough is enough, and you finally, like, you have to consciously make that decision to change. And so I think I was just, you know, ready for that. God kind of showed me what I was missing. And so I was like, yeah, you know, you're right. Let me consciously make a decision to change the way I'm living. And once you do that, then your life starts changing. You know, once you change, then things start changing. And so I think that was kind of just having enough with the low energy and just feeling like crap, honestly, for a long time. Really changed that. And then obviously, you know, God kind of woke me up to the way I was living and ultimately helped me change from that. So
nobody wants to be, like, down and sad all the time. Like, I get there are people that struggle with that, but we have the resources to help us a little bit in that.
So you said something about, like, finding joy, didn't you? Just say that. What
Like,
did you
nobody
say
wants
about-
to feel like yucky all the time, feel like crap, and I get some people struggle with that, like, clinically, but we have the resources to be able to change that, the God-given resources, food, exercise, environment.
Yeah. As we were preparing like, we kind of knew our topics and whatnot, I looked up a Bible verse, and it's Proverbs 17:22 says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. So I just thought that was cool. Like, if you're not cheerful and finding joy in every circumstance, you're literally deteriorating, not just, like, your emotions, but your inside, your bones are deteriorating because you're not seeking
Yeah. I
betterness
think
and
it
stuff.
all goes hand in hand. Not only does, like, your that, like, reading that, the way that you explained it, not only does the way that you eat and stuff start to affect your mentality, but I think sometimes your mentality can affect your eating. So it's like, I'm just feeling really down. So, like, now, I mean, I'm already down. Might as well just go eat really bad, or might as well, like, it all kind of goes together. And so, I mean, we talk a lot on discipline, but where you said it kind of, like, clicked in your brain, like, now is the time. I don't want to live like this anymore. I think a lot of people can get to that point, but then their mental health or whatever can start to lead them back. And so how do you guys stay disciplined whenever, I don't know, maybe you're not ever tempted to, like, just go back or go, maybe not. Because there's sometimes, and the thing is, God, like, he does remove desires, and from some people, he literally takes away the desire. You have no want for it, but that's not the story for everybody. It's just not. And some of us, it's a lifelong thing of just constant surrender and giving up to him and him redirecting us. So how do you stay disciplined when it's not like a, God, I know this is best, and so I'm going to do it. I feel better, but it's like a, I got to overcome kind of this block that's in my brain. How do you work against that?
Yeah. Well, I think it all, like you said, it all does start in your mind and, like, thoughts, and then from those thoughts, depending on, your actions, you can take those thoughts and turn them into reality. But I think there's going to come a point, obviously, where our thoughts are going to be on the negative side. And so I think it's just being conscious of those thoughts and really, I think also having gratitude. Mm-hmm. So being grateful for what you have and knowing that, these thoughts, although they're negative, your life it could be worse. And so being grateful, I think, really helps battle those negative thoughts. And then once you can kind of be grateful for where you're at, the negative thoughts don't have as much power, at least for me. Mm-hmm. Stepping back in that kind of grateful, positive mindset helps move your action towards the right direction. So I think gratitude plays a big role when it comes to beating those negative thoughts and overcoming that. And then obviously just the side of, you're going to have negative thoughts. You also have these goals that you want to achieve. And in between those is the actions that you need to take. And so whether you feel great or whether you don't feel great, the action still has to be put in for you to achieve your goals. And so there kind of comes that saying of mind over matter, just doing the work when it's needed, the discipline aspect of it, which is crucial to have. But I think if that's hard to do and just, it's hard to just be disciplined sometimes, taking a step back and being grateful for where you're at and where you've come, I think would help shift your mindset towards kind of the positive direction and get you going.
That's good.
Back
That's
towards.
Really good.
I would say also, like, not having a tunnel vision in that exact moment. Mm-hmm. So when you're really wanting to go back into not being so disciplined, like, it's easy to just focus on that exact moment. Like, no, this would feel really good right now. Like, that would be amazing. But if you just take, like, 5 seconds to step back, okay, look how far I've come, have that gratitude. Mm-hmm. But then, like, if I just look at the big picture, I can see more clearly of what I'm needing to do and how, like, I know if I go this direction, it actually is going to make me feel better, make me happier, rather than that instant gratification that this thing that I don't necessarily want, but my flesh is telling me I want. I'll have so much more gratitude and happiness going towards that if I just take a minute and just step back and not impulsively act.
Yeah, I think that's so important of what you both just said. I mean, and not being so tunnel vision, but knowing that those moments are going to come. I don't feel like that's something I was prepped for, of just knowing, and maybe it's because I accepted Jesus so young, but I just thought, like, once I got there, like, once you get through one thing, then that's it and that's over. But I think that's one of the biggest things, is to be conscious that even if you have overcome it and you've laid it down and you feel like God has removed the desire from you, still praying to him and, like, trying to give that up to him and knowing that that thought might come back. Because if you're not aware of that, then when the thought comes, you start to think, what is wrong with me, or was my salvation real? Or you start to, like, go into it. Yeah, you go into a spiral of all these things. So just knowing beforehand, like, hey, these thoughts might come back, but being proactive and making the decision now that when those thoughts come, this is how I'm going to act. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't prep yourself for that, then when the thought comes, like, it's all cards on the table. I mean, you don't know what your response will be.
Yeah. Like having a plan when that comes up. Like prepare yourself because like you said, it's going to happen. And God does remove desires from people, but some people, like he is like, okay, I need you to have this surrender all throughout this. Like I just need you to trust me, even though you are having those thoughts or those desires. Just keep your eyes focused on me, but having a plan when those come up, whether that's with your nutrition or with whatever else you're struggling with. Just okay, this is a plan. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to have the discipline. I'm going to step back and I'm going to look at the big picture of where I want to be, where God is pushing me to be, rather than staying in the past and complacent with what I have. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I like that too, because I think sometimes more than God wants to remove something from you, he wants to grow like a fruit of the Spirit, and one of those fruits of the Spirit is self-control. So you might be praying, God, take this, or like, I don't want to struggle with this anymore. But he's like, oh, but if you could just get this self-control thing down, like you would be unstoppable. It's like, I know, but I just want to surrender it. Yeah.
yes.
Wouldn't it would be so much easier if, those desires were just gone immediately. But I think that's kind of, I don't want to say the point of life, but like you go through these trials to build up these character traits to become more like Jesus. Like that's the goal. And so I think you have to have those to grow. So
That's true.
That's good.
I agree.
That's good.
Hey, good stuff. So another question that I had, this is going like way back to kind of where we were talking earlier, but I mean, kind of, it all does go hand in hand. But when you're talking about mind, body, spirit, and back to the eating, Haley, you said like there was a time where you just weren't eating and you're like, I'm just gonna drink this coffee, like that's my meal. And I don't know if that had something to do with body image or what, but I know that's a legit struggle that a lot of us have. And finding healthy relationships with food has been hard for me too, because I can just be extra hard on myself if I have, because see, that could be like oh man, I shouldn't have eaten that, but then I'll like dwell on it. But you guys talk pretty heavy on the 80-20, and so I want you to just talk a little bit about that and what it looks like to have a healthy relationship with food, because sometimes it's not like full all in 100%. Too much of anything is
not good.
Is not good. Yeah.
Going back to like just drinking coffee, that really stemmed from, I was just sad, like internally, and so I completely neglected I didn't have the energy to eat, and I didn't really care. And then I started losing weight, and I was like, oh wait, I look good, and so I'm going to continue just drinking coffee. And I went on like that for probably a year, and I noticed, I was like, okay, I would wake up, we'd get coffee, and then I'd go to work, I'd have another coffee, and then at work I'd have an energy drink. So that was all I was consuming. I was consuming caffeine.
Yeah. Oh, Haley, I thought you were fun to be around.
Literally, imagine me with 3 energy drinks. I'm already hyper, and so, man. So, like, I was all 100% coffee, and I was 70% coffee beans and 30% energy drinks from Alani. They should have sponsored me at that point. But once we took a step back and I was reflecting, I was like, okay, I'm literally doing 100% of everything wrong for myself. And thankfully, I have Jayden, who had kind of that background. Like, his mom helped him through all of this. And then I had his mom, and so I would see what she was doing for him. And that gave me the balance. And so it's been a long time, because I've never had like a good relationship with food. And I think that's very common for a lot of women, girls in general. And men can have that problem too, but it's just so in our faces, like how much you're eating, how little you're eating, how big are you? And for the longest time, I was like, no, salads are all I can eat. And then I was like, well, I'm never satisfied. So then I go and binge, and it's like, God, I don't want to feel like this. And I would have even more guilt and resentment towards myself whenever I would fall into that. And finally, like, it took a lot of like healing mentally and actively trying to figure out where this was coming from. And I think it's just like how you grow up, like what you see your parents do. And I'm not saying my parents were bad, but like their habits affected me. And so then I was like, okay, that's normal. And how they would eat would be how I would eat. And then I started thinking for myself finally, like, okay, I don't have to eat the way my parents taught me or the way Jayden does or anything like that. And I was actually, like, last week I got chicken and I was like, okay, I'm starving and I don't have anything at the house, so I'm going to have chicken. I went to Slim Chickens and I was eating it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to happily eat this and then I'm going to move on. I'm not going to hold on to that. And I'm still going to get my workout in. I'm still going to like get my steps and do the things that I know that are going to make me feel good about myself. And in general, it's not having that all or nothing mindset. Because I feel like I used to definitely have that. And a lot of people struggle with that. Like, oh, I've already eaten like crap today. So guess what? I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah, and you're right on. I think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to food. And I think one of the big issues with social media is you have all these different, people, influencer or whatever, saying different things. They're in the grocery store saying this is bad, that's bad. Whether it's true or not, it bases everything around fear. And to live your life around fear is not what we're meant to do. And so I think taking the fear out of that by realizing food is food, some a little bit more nutrient dense than others, but that's where the 80-20 rule comes into play. And so the 80-20 for me, the way I see it is 80% of what I eat is food that grows in the ground, eats grass, grows on a tree, real food, fruits, meats, vegetables, grains, that sort of thing. And so 80% of what I consume is whole foods. I'm also still tracking those foods because we can, if we go a little deeper on what your goals are, if you want to lose weight, you got to eat a certain amount according to what you burn, that sort of thing. We won't get too deep into that. But so I'm really on point for 80% of what I'm consuming. And then that leaves space for the other 20% for when, I'm in a pickle and we swing by Slim Chickens. I'm not sad or depressed about eating this food. I can be happy and be like, okay, I've already been locked in for 80% of this week. And so this right here is going to be part of my 20%. I know I have the calories for it. I'm going to eat this with joy and not have to fear of, oh no, this was, cooked in this or cooked in that, and that's not the best, And so I think removing the fear from food is a crucial role when it comes to like restoring your relationship with food. And so that's one of my goals, is to really help people kind of understand that you don't have to be scared of this or that, but we can make conscious choices about what we put into our bodies. And if we do that 80% of the time, then that cake or the brownies or the pizza or the fast food or whatever it is that you enjoy, you can enjoy and not have to feel bad about it.
So like when people say you are what you eat, but that's literally such a reflection of going back to your mental health, because it does affect you so much. But I was thinking, so in the sense of like you are what you eat, but you are what you consume. So that's also with like your medias, your music and stuff like that. And it really does affect and start 100%. To weigh heavy on your spirit. And so I feel like 80-20 with that, but also being so cautious of the things you're letting in, like not just in your body, but in your soul and in your spirit. Because that is something that it's all just intertwined. Once that gets in, you start letting yourself down, then that can lay into food. It's just crazy to me how God has, like, what we fuel our body with really is what keeps us going and can lead us to Him, or really can start to, like, set a divide. And I know that sounds crazy, but unless you've lived it and kind of experienced it, it really can start to set a divide in between you and God, honestly, whenever you're not treating His temple that way. Because He says, like, your body is a dwelling place for the Holy Spirit. And, like, if He lives in here and I'm just neglecting my body and treating it like crap all of the time, that's kind of disrespecting Him, and it's hurting my relationship with Him. And it's hard for me to be disciplined in other areas like prayer and reading my Bible and fueling my spirit the way that it needs to be. So
going back to like what you surround yourself with, like your friends and the music you listen to and the movies you watch or the shows, like music was honestly the first, whenever I got saved at a young age, but I didn't take my relationship with God seriously until 2021, honestly, until we went through what we went through together and we came back. And before, we were listening to all kinds of music, not appropriate at all. And I remember like being in the car with him and listening to the song. And I'm like, this is just makes me feel bad. Like, it doesn't make me feel good. I would not want to listen to this. If Jesus was in the car with me, I would be embarrassed, actually. And the same goes for shows. Like, the Holy Spirit, if you're a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit. And so whenever you have that conviction, he's telling you, listen to it. Like, you shouldn't be watching that show, or protect yourself if you are watching that show. Like, there's so much going on in the spiritual realm that we don't get to see it. And the music, like, Satan uses music and movies and people to attack us and to get us farther from God. And so watch who you're spending your time with, who your friends are, what are they doing? Like, how are they treating themselves? Like, because if they're not treating their temple, very good, then, like, you're going to catch on to those habits. And though we need to be around those people to help them, we got to have boundaries. And so, yeah, like, be careful of who, what, and where you're surrounding yourself with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that 80-20 rule can be applied to that, or really anything in life. Kind of what you're talking about, how what you eat affects the way you feel. Like, everything in life is so interconnected. And so you can use the 80-20 rule just for what you were talking about, protecting yourself and making sure that 80% of what you consume, whether that's social media, music, whatever, is positive, uplifting, bringing it full circle, and that 80-20 can be applied to every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a good rule to have. Not saying that, 20% you should go all in and, like, 20%.
I know. See, that's where I've tried so hard, because I don't want to, like, someone to be like, well, I've read my Bible a lot this week. Time to go get drunk.
That's not
what we mean.
That's not what we're saying.
Those are the boundaries that we need to have.
Yeah, but no, I think
It's
that even
100%
goes.
Jesus.
Yeah, 100%. I was even thinking though, like, when Haley was saying that about people, like, 80% of the time I spend, I want it to be around people who love Jesus and help me feel the Spirit, and then that 20% I can be pouring out and, like, helping other people. So even in, like, the people that you're with, because in media, it's not that I just listen to only Christian music 100% of the time, all the time, but I do really see a shift in my brain if I am listening to more secular music. And it depends on the messages of the secular music.
Right.
Even if you're not, like, a lyrical person and you're not listening to the lyrics, that's the thing. I know a lot of people that are like, yeah, but Christian music, like, I'm just like the beat and, like, the sound of these other songs. I know you're not listening to the words, but the words are still, like,
Listening to you.
yeah, they are. You're welcoming it
They're
in.
speaking to you.
It's kind of like, you've heard the plant analogy. Yeah, like, did a study, and there was 2 different sets of plants, and one plant they spoke affirmations to, and they're like, you're doing so good, you're growing, I'm so proud of you. And the other one, like, they kind of belittled it.
Dumb plant.
And the one that was getting spoken to kindly and uplifting actually grew and flourished more than the one. So it's like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
how we talk to ourselves, the people that we surround ourselves, it does make an impact. And if my girls are watching this, you know what I'm about to say. Who you surround yourself, like, is who you will become. And you don't want to surround yourself with people that are going to be just negative all the time, not dragging, like, or like, oh, you can miss Wednesday night or Sunday morning, let's go party. And it's like, no, you'll become that person if you don't have those boundaries set in place, because it's easy, like, oh, that sounds more fun and easy. It's easy to go and, like, be at a party rather than be so disciplined and live a Christ-like life. So
Yeah. I have a question, because I'm speaking to our girls too, if they're listening.
I'm watching you.
This idea of, like, this sounds more fun, because that is a lifestyle that you guys have lived. Me and Abby, like, we have our fair share of mistakes, but partying, I was, like, too awkward for that. Like, that was never a thing for me. I was like, I'm always in a party. But
God was watching us for this one.
he was, because, real note. I don't know how vulnerable I want to get, but the first time, no one ever invited me to parties because they're like, it's Tori. Like, no one's invited me. But, that sounded mean. Just because they imagined I would just say no.
Yeah.
But then my boyfriend had moved away, and I was kind of in this first, like single, whatever, for the first time. And I had got, like, asked to go to a party, and I was going to. Like, first party I had ever been invited to, and I had planned the whole thing out, how to meet, like, this, one of my girlfriends was going to, like, take me and this whole thing. And I got in a car wreck the week before.
Wow, that was a hard no.
Yeah. And
God said, ain't happening.
And you guys, I have such an addictive personality. Like, I know that I do. And so to me, I'm like, that doesn't seem appealing, but I'm afraid that had I, like, putting a foot into that door, like, I would have been in it. And so, because I did feel like I was missing out. Like, why does nobody invite me? Why? Because I was like the good girl. But like, why? Like, was the life that looked more appealing and looked more fun, and that's what everybody else was doing. And so to people who are thinking, well, this seems more fun, I want to do it. You've done both. You've lived both lives. You were in it. Like, you lived it. And here you are now. So I guess just to the people listening, was it worth it? Maybe it was fun, but did it fulfill you? What was really more fulfilling, that or where you are? And how does it, like...
It was never fulfilling. And I will constantly say that. Getting drunk and consuming things that are not made for me. Like, yes, it was fun in the moment. But then the next morning, the regrets and the shame and like the embarrassment would come. That's Satan. He's like, here, I got you to go. And now I'm going to show you everything you did wrong. And I'm a very sensitive person to that. Like, I try to hold myself to a high standard. And then I would let myself down by showing up as the person that I knew I wouldn't be proud of. And yeah, I never miss those moments. Now that they're gone, I don't want to go to the club. I don't want to go to the party scene. I like friends, intimate moments. Let's hang out. Like, I like this. Like, let's just talk, or like, let's go do something fun. It doesn't have to be in that environment. And I remember we were together. Went to a bachelorette, a wedding thing, and we were together and we're dancing, and we look around and we're like, everybody looks sad. This is not glorifying God. I felt conviction right then and there. And I was like, I'm supposed to be different. And I'm here doing the same exact thing that they're doing. And in that moment, I definitely felt shame. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be that. I need to change my actions right now and move forward. But yeah, no, I would, like you said, it's more fun. It seems more appealing and more fun, but I promise you, just hanging out with your girlfriends or your guy friends, just being boys or being girls and having like genuine fun rather than having to drink to have fun, you will always appreciate those memories so much more than
Probably
the
because
ones
you
can't
remember them.
Yeah.
Because you can remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always fun in the moment, you know. And I think, you know, what you're really chasing after is the dopamine. And the dopamine's all in the chase. And so it's everything leading up to that point till you're actually like, you know, drunk or whatever. And then it's like, oh,
This isn't worth it.
right. It doesn't take long. Or even the next day, you know, you wake up with a hangover. It's like,
Why did I do this to
why
my
did I do
body?
that? Yeah. You know, it's fun in the moment, but afterwards it's not. Whereas if you flip it and maybe you do the hard stuff first, then it'll be rewarding in the end. And that's the way it goes. I mean, you have to sacrifice. And so in the moment, obviously going to the parties, you know, doing the things is fun. And it's it's like what you want to do. Like, you know, it's fun, but you have to sacrifice that immediate pleasure for some delayed gratification. I think that's, you know, ultimately what Jesus did was sacrifice. And so I think we have to sacrifice also in our lives. And I think one way that it looks is, you know, sacrificing that immediate pleasure for, you know, greater return down the road for a bigger purpose.
But I still think, like, we're not saying that
You can go to parties. Like, I know people that you can go to parties. No, you can. I mean, you can go to parties and you can, you know, work on that self-control. But I would not advise that because, you know, that's just going to make it that much easier to fall into those temptations. So I'm not saying that you can't go to these things and you know, do these things with your friends, but just know that there is, you know, a price to be paid if you do fall into those things afterwards, and it just makes it that much harder.
What's Lee would say it to you?
Oh, yes. Sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Lee told our small group that, and it's stuck. And it's so true. I mean, like, sin will... It starts out like, oh, I'll just do it, you know,
I'll just go
on
to
the
that
weekend.
party, yeah.
Just this weekend, you know. And then it turns to like every weekend. And then next thing you know, 4 nights out of the week, you're going and doing things that you thought you wouldn't be doing, and it's taking you farther than you wanted to go, and then you're in that, and it's hard to get out of, and so you're there for longer than you want to be, and then when you finally beat it and you get out of it, you realize how much it cost you, all the time, where you could have been, what you could have been doing, people you could have been helping, through all the times that you were, in the trenches. So that saying is so true.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah, at least it was for my life. So
I think you hit it right on the dot with sacrifice. You're sacrificing one thing either way. It's just if you want an instant reward or if you want greater reward later through like the sacrifice now of saying no or turning away from things. So
and like hanging out with like a small intimate group of friends like that, it's fun, I promise. Like
it is.
like I promise you, if you put the two in together, like okay, I'm gonna go party or I'm gonna go just have intimate friendship with like a close group of girls or guys or whatever, and you actually get to have conversation, you get to know each other better rather than consuming something that's gonna hide who you really are and give them a false impression of you, because God wants us to be authentic. And for me, whenever I was in that scene, like I wasn't being the person I am today, I can promise you that. And I was kind of like hiding who God made me to be by the substances that I was consuming. So it's always more fun. Like it's fun in the beginning, but it will take you farther. And hanging out with just like, you'll feel so much more restored if you just have that fun group that doesn't have to go to the club or go to the party scene, and you get to like grow together. Like
like we're laughing all the time.
Yes. Giggle boxes over here.
That doesn't mean you just hang out and you're just like boring and there's something so great about knowing that a friend loves you and they know you. Yes. So not that they know like a cover up of you or you that's trying to be liked by somebody else, but like when we can just sit and we can talk, and it's like we leave that, and maybe we don't talk till next year when we're in a van for like a couple of hours.
Those hours though.
But it's like I just know that you guys are good friends and you know me and you love me, not like someone that I'm trying to be to please you guys. And so I think those kinds of friendships and those relationships, sometimes you do got to sacrifice what seems fun in the moment, like, but I have so much fun when we're together, and I know that you guys love me and I love you, and it's just, like I think when God designed us to be in relationship, it's intentional. It's like that.
Not hiding or masking with substances and just being numb, because it's fun in the beginning, and then you're like, none of my friends know me. They don't know my interest or the things that I struggle with, because when we're together, we're not together. We're focusing on other things, and so
they'll know probably what your favorite drink is.
Yeah, like what I get at the bar, and I'm like, oh, thanks.
Hey, she knows.
She knows me.
Other than that,
yeah.
It just seems so, and this is like personally, but like the party scene, and like to me at least, when I was doing it, it was just like seeking such like surface level connection or surface level dopamine or surface level love, and so when you do hang out with friends and you're able to just communicate and have a conversation and connect with one another, then that like really hits like deep. And so the feeling that you get is so much deeper, and it's so much more rewarding than the other surface level stuff.
Like, these are my people. Like, I love them. They love me. We're supporting each other. And like, that's all that can carry you through some really hard times, is knowing that you have people that genuinely know you and love you and want the best for you.
Like when I leave a party, it's mostly like get in the car, close the door. It's like,
literally.
But when you leave a group of friends, it's like,
you know what? No words. I get that. I totally do.
That's how it feels. I don't know how to.
That's what I said. That was the whole representation. I get it now.
The sighs are very different. Like,
For sure.
I'm so happy. You're like, oh, get me out of here.
Literally.
As we kind of close out practical steps, and I we kind of hit all the topics, I feel like, through
Yeah.
just talking, which is great. But mind, body, and spirit, is there any advice or like practical steps? So if someone's listening and they're like, man, that sounds great. Maybe they feel like they're stuck in that phase. They long for deep connection, but they don't have anyone. They don't have community. Or maybe they're like me and Abby and just decided like, hey, I just need to lock in. Like I already take the Jesus thing seriously, but I need to lock in. So mind, body, and spirit, what overall would you kind of say practical steps or tips or advice that kind of got you guys to where you are for whoever's listening? And
Yeah, I would say if we're going into the new year with some goals, actionable steps. For one, write down those goals. I think a lot of people have a vision for what they want, who they want to become, but they don't actually write it down. Writing it down is the first step. Then after you write it down, those goals, habits or systems is something that you should also write down in line with those goals. So goals are cool, right? I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 months. Cool. How do you do that? And that's where I think writing down the systems and on the habits, eating 3 balanced meals a day, going for 2 30-minute walks, that sort of thing. So building habits around those goals, I think, is important to actually achieve those goals.
I'm all about writing them down, creating a vision board, prayer board, whatever you want to call it, because there's been times in my life where at the beginning of the year I did make a vision board and I look back on it and I'm like, holy smokes, I did that. Like I did all of those things without even like paying attention to it, but it was in my face. I put it in our room and I got to just walk by it every day and I'm like, okay, I'm actually being reminded of it without even having to put the effort into it. Like it's in my face. So lists and vision boards, planning, I'm all about making a plan. And because like if you just start and you don't have a plan, what's your next step?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. So those would be like your foundations. Is like, I'm a Pinterest girl. I love going on Pinterest and like getting inspiration. I got him on Pinterest sometimes. So he goes in, I got a vision board for him on my Pinterest. So he uses it too. It's not a girl thing. You can get inspiration. But creating an idea, that's like the fun part, is like the excitement. And you're like, I'm ready. You're motivated. And
you
so
can't even do the fun part. You
got to do the fun part. Well,
Yeah.
it's fun for me. So I hope it's fun for everybody. But making a list, figuring out what habits. So, okay, you want to go closer to God. Okay, we'll set aside 10 extra minutes in the morning. That's a habit that you can do. Just 10 minutes, 5 minutes even. Or pray while you're getting ready. Or pray on the way to work or school, whatever it is. Just actively putting in the work to become the person that you want to be. Reading your Bible, going on the walks, eating the good food 80% of the time, 20% of the time. Enjoy yourself. Those would be the top ones, and then just surrounding yourself with people that you can lean on. So that going back to community, God did not design us to go through this life alone and to struggle with our own self alone. And so if you need help, like, okay, I really want to lock in and I really want to grow closer to God this year, then have somebody that is where you want to be and have them help you.
How would you tell people to find the community?
Find the community. Okay.
Because I know it's hard. Like, if you're by yourself, where do you go?
Yeah,
that is hard.
But not to, I can cut this out, but just in like moment of vulnerability, I remember you, like, as we started to get close, and you were like, it's been very hard because you guys were kind of set apart from the friends that you had previously, so where you had a ton of people, even though now you feel like it wasn't as deep of connections, but it was like all of the people that you had, you felt like you didn't. So you kind of were in that of where is community, and now it was just you guys trying to.
Well, we got plugged in whenever we kind of like switched, we got plugged in at church. And that's, I mean, we got Luke, we got you guys, and that was a big help. Like, I think God literally placed us in that position. Like, Jayden went to go meet with Luke, and Jayden came back and he's like, okay, we're going to volunteer. And I'm like, oh, okay. Sounds great.
Right in the deep end.
Right. Count me in. And then we met you guys and Colton and Heidi and Timothy, and like, we set ourselves up to where we could. So like, don't sit in your room, don't sit at home and be like, oh, I don't have any friends. go out and try, because that's the only way. Like, if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to find them. Putting yourself out there. And I know that's uncomfortable. Believe it or not, I can be a shy person in the beginning, and like just talking to people that I know were a little bit more, I don't want to say advanced, but farther along in their journey than I was, is intimidating. And I get that. But knowing you guys, I knew you guys weren't judging where we were at. You're like, no, we want to help you. Like, we see the change that you can make, and you kind of helped us through that whole thing. So like putting yourself out there, I know it's uncomfy, and then being authentic to yourself. Like, don't hide who you actually are, because then those relationships aren't authentic. So yeah, that would be, not everybody, like if you don't have a church, find one, and find the community, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have church hurt, but that's not all churches. And until you've literally tried every church in the whole entire world, don't come at me and say no, because we're not, like, I get it is out there. Yeah. But there's some really amazing people and Christians that want to help you and want to see you change the life for the better. So
yeah, church is like, finding a good church is a great place to find a community, because although there are churches with not the greatest people, there's also really, really good people in those churches as well. You just have to find them. You have to be open to meeting them and being there. But yeah, once you find that tight-knit, like you can find a tight-knit community that is also passionate about health, all the things that you are. So I think that's a great place to start. Sticking to the community part, I think online, with social media, although there's a lot of negatives to it, I think there's a lot of positives to it as well. And so there's a billion different communities on the internet that would probably align with, what you're looking for. And so I think, getting out there and not just doom scrolling on social media, but actually trying to connect with people, I think is another great place to do it if you don't want to, actually get out of your house and, do that.
Which I feel like as a society, we're all kind of there like, no, I'd rather stay home. Yeah.
Right. But, those online connections can then become, real life in-person connections as well. I guess the way I'll end it off is like going back to what we were talking about, making goals, sticking to them. First, write the goals down. Like you said, look at those goals, put them somewhere where you can see them every single day so that you're consciously or subconsciously being reminded of them. Third one is building systems or habits around those goals. I don't know if I had a fourth one, but it can be hard to, there's a lot in life, and so it can be hard to kind of break those down. I was taught one way to do it. It's called Core 4. So you have power, passion, purpose, and production. Power is everything physical, so your physical body. So goals can be, what you're eating, movement, that sort of thing. Passion is everything to do with relationships, whether that's with your mom, with your spouse, with your friends. Purpose is the spiritual side of it, so your connection with God and your purpose. And then production is your career or finances. And so if you wanted to break down those 4 and come up with 3 different goals in each of those categories, that's what I'm doing. I think that's a good way to hit kind of all aspects of your life without it seeming overwhelming, because it can be. But yeah.
And I think that's where like people stop because they get overwhelmed. And so that's why we like to write it down, is because once you get it on paper and it's not in your head, it feels so much more attainable. And so setting out the goals. Okay, so you have 1 in each of those. And then you break down a habit to achieve that goal for each of those. And so it's like, oh, I just needed to write it down. I just needed to get it out. Think about it, because, you have to think about if you're wanting to change something, okay, what are you wanting to choose to change to? And so think about it, put it out, and then it seems so much more attainable. And you're like, I can do this. Like, I'm not scared. I don't have that fear. It's not over my head because fear of failure. You write these goals down and you're like, okay, I don't want to fail at them, so I'm just not going to try. And that's not what we're meant to do. And so, like, you're going to fail. There's going to be times. It's going to be a roller coaster. But you're going to get to that point. If you keep trying, you're going to succeed. And so it just may not look exactly how you thought and as smooth as you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But if you have the faith and the consistency,
Yeah.
you can get there. You can literally do anything with those two things, faith and consistency. You can get there.
100%.
That's good.
I feel like one of your guys' biggest things that you do, maybe you don't talk about it a lot, but is accountability. You guys keep each other accountable a lot. I know that whenever I wanted to start getting healthier, I messaged you and you're like, okay, let's do it. And you immediately were like, I'm going to keep you accountable for like starting off. And Tori is always a good accountability partner. But to sum that all up, like you set your goals, you look at them, and then you put into action steps, and then you find somebody that keeps you accountable, I think is really important so that you don't catch yourself slacking and then you're just mad at yourself. You have somebody that's there to encourage you and build you up.
Yeah.
Makes it
Definitely do
harder
that.
to slack when you've got somebody, especially if you choose, somebody like the right person. It's like, okay, I definitely don't want to
Disappoint
fail,
them. Yeah.
disappoint.
No, and I'm pretty like I'm a very like type of person, which you guys know that, and so
I love that about you.
I'm like, how did I get to that point? I don't know.
It's all that
But
coffee
if you-
drinking.
Literally, 70% coffee is me. No, I'm working on it. Water is important. No, like if I don't respond really good at that though. Like Jayden is a very good person when he knows not to be like, okay, Haley, you're really slacking, get it together. And I'd be like, I would cry.
I guess it depends on your accountability partner too.
So Jaden's I needed like a more gentle response, and he's really good at that. Whereas him, I'm like, Jayden, get it together. And he does great. Like, he really does. Like,
Yeah,
Well, that's true. Knowing the
pretty-
person that
Yeah.
you're
knowing yourself and like how you respond to things would definitely help that accountability partner. Or if you got a coach or whatever, knowing how to be coached is important.
Yeah.
So if you need, like for myself, like I need you screaming, yelling in my face.
I don't scream at him. No,
She doesn't.
I do not scream at him.
But if we're going back to like wrestling, that is what worked. I'm stubborn. I need somebody literally yelling in my face to tell me what to do.
I'm gentle. Don't yell at me.
She's on the more gentle side, so she needs a little more care when it comes to telling her,
She's like, babe, do you want to go do this? And I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds really good.
I guess to like wrap it all up and all the actionable things that we said, I think attaching a why to those things is gonna get you through the moments where the negative thoughts come in and the motivation's gone and you really don't want to do the thing you're supposed to do. If you have that why, and that why is strong enough, that can carry you through those moments. And so I think finding a good why for whatever your goals are is extremely important to actually achieving those.
I want to be the best person I can be. And so, like, my why sometimes is me. Like, I need to do it for me. I need to prove to myself that I'm capable of doing the hard things that I don't always want to do, but I have the strength to do them anyways.
Yeah, I think that's, where confidence comes from, is showing up for yourself. So to become that confident person, you have to
Do the things
you say that you were going to do, which is not easy. It's not easy to do. But none of what we were talking about is easy. It's that thing of going back to, you have to sacrifice in the moment to get the reward later, and that's not easy.
Actively choose to be better every day. That really like try to be better 1% every day. I mean, it is true. Like, it helps. So, and it's a lot easier to think like, oh, I just have to take one small step rather than take 100% over here.
Right.
So,
And it's one step every decision that you make. I mean, because that is like, it's up to you. You have the free will to choose. And so you get to choose, am I going to put a check mark towards the person that I want to be, or am I going to put a check mark towards the person that I don't want to be, but it's easier, So you get to make that decision multiple times a day, every day.
and it's super uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable no matter what, but it's rewarding. So, uncomfy for right now, but reward in the future.
Just give yourself some time.
Yes.
That's the thing too. Is like we've grown up in such an instant
Gratification.
society that it makes it hard to achieve your goals because your goals take time. Like if you're like physical goals or whatever, and you're giving yourself next 4 weeks, like no, maybe 4 months.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of go back to the beginning, take a step back and look at the big picture. It'll help those in the moment decisions on which way you want to go.
Yeah. Whenever people are like, I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. Ma'am, that's not healthy.
You're going to the hospital if you do that.
You would need to go get some help if that's really like your goal is. And so taking time, being patient, and sticking to the plan. Patience, sticking to the plan, and faith. Those are things.
That's true. And I think even in that goal, it's also being realistic with yourself because you don't want to set a goal that's unattainable. Then your fear of failure is definite. And then you're going to be like, well, I proved that I failed. I'm not going to try something again. So making them realistic too. And sometimes you might need an outside source like you guys who are super into fitness and know these things. Hey, is this attainable? No. Okay, well, how do I actually lose 30 pounds then? So like you said, seeking people who have gotten there or who know the things. So yeah, I think that honestly, I mean, unless you have anything else to close out, I think that you guys talked about everything and more that we could have hoped for, and I know that it helped at least one, that's the goal. Every episode, at least one. Yeah. And if it helps one, then maybe they'll share it and help somebody else. So yeah, thank you guys for being on here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's so fun. We'll have to have you back on because this is just talking to them. I mean, this is what we do all the time. We just need to record it more often.
Record it. Put our phones up.
Yeah. All right. And then with that being said, XOXO. Godly girls.
Oh, that was cute.
That's the sign off.